Presenting everybody's favorite hero, paladin of truth and justice, defender of the defenseless, pragmatic educator of the reckless, it's the Silver Samaritan!
Greetings, aspiring heroes! Silver Samaritan here, and welcome back to Superhero Skills. Today we begin our section on protecting yourself, and we're starting off with one of the most important aspects of self-preservation, keeping your secret identity a secret. It's harder than it sounds. People think they can just order a costume off Amazon and that's it. Those people will end up dead or in jail. You see, you are now walking a fine line between law enforcement and lawbreakers. Once you interfere with either of those lines of work, and you inevitably will, they will both be looking for you. And society has given one of those groups a monopoly on acceptable violence. Interpret that how you will, while the other group won't hesitate to break that monopoly, along with your kneecaps. So today, we're going to talk about what I call the Batman method for protecting your identity. Obviously, it's easier if you're a billionaire, but there are ways for the other 99.9999% of masked heroes out there to prepare for and do the job without exposing their identities. Part 1. Masks. A mask is more than just a face covering, especially as we've been learning lately. But in this context, it really is a second identity. If you opt for a basic domino, you risk being recognized by anything from facial scars to your haircut to facial recognition software. You'll want something simple but comprehensive. A half cowl like Batman's can work very well, but if you have facial hair or any identifying marks below the nose, or even just really distinctive-looking teeth, you're going to want to go full cowl, or even opt for an overkill-style helmet with a full facial shield. Similarly, your behavior as a private citizen must not be traceable to your masked persona. Some of this will come naturally. We all know the fictional examples. Spider-Man becomes the archetypal smartass when he puts on the mask, yet returns to a relatively demure dork in civilian life. This appears to be a natural transition for him, as if the mask itself gives him an excuse to roleplay. Bruce Wayne famously played the Scarlet Pimpernel, acting like a spoiled brat well into his 60s. It's been argued that that in itself was a better mask than the Batman cowl, but I'd say they worked in tandem. The rest of your costume should really be devoid of clues to your identity as well. If you insist on having some kind of theme or motif like a hawk or a wolf or a ghost or whatever, it's probably best to choose one that your friends and family wouldn't associate with you. If you spent your childhood obsessed with birds of prey, for instance, avoid incorporating that into your masked identity. Try something that people aren't expecting from you, like a biblical reference if you're an atheist, something like that. Bruce Wayne set himself up not as a superhero named Money Guy, but as a bat, the subject of a deep fear he had only shared with the man who raised him, which probably wasn't the brightest move, but fortunately for him, Alfred's loyalty is above reproach. Also, you'll want to avoid silly mistakes like giving away your weaknesses or less obvious identifiers. For instance, in his first year active, the fictional street vigilante Daredevil made the mistake of wearing a mask with no eye holes. Part of his ability to maintain a secret identity comes from the fact that his enemies don't know he's blind, and a mask with no eye holes kinda gives that game away. Secure your advantages no matter what they are, and let no one have the slightest clue who you are if you can avoid it. Part 2. Anonymous acquisition of equipment and consumables. Amazon often has great deals on tactical gear, but you can't just order it under your own name and have it delivered to your house. The eponymous character in the satire Kick-Ass did not take precautions that way, and it led to his discovery. Like, really quickly. Now, we can't all use shell corporations to buy thousands of units and thereby avoid scrutiny like Batman, but if you can do that, I recommend it. Conversely, if you're on a tighter budget like the rest of us, you can use a burner phone, a good VPN, and a mailbox rented under an assumed identity. Do not use public Wi-Fi to order superhero gear. Some gear, smoke bombs, arrows, various chemical compounds need to be re-upped or acquired on an ongoing basis. If you have a large enough space for it, I'd recommend building at least a rudimentary lab and/or machine shop with decent soundproofing and no windows. Ventilation will have to be achieved by other means. Learning to make your own consumables can be even cheaper in the long run and can make you harder to track if you know what you're doing. Or you can, as a former colleague of mine used to say, quote, have a guy for that, end quote. Many swordsmiths, gunsmiths, chemists, and explosives experts are available for hire through the right channels. Be careful though, they can also be vulnerable to manipulation and even blackmail. This can work to your advantage initially, but can just as easily backfire in the long run. Better to start with a kind offer, and then maybe fall back on blackmail if you begin to suspect that, say, your source of black market chemicals is not entirely trustworthy. Part 3. DNA and Fingerprints. DNA plays a smaller role in your detection than TV and movies might lead you to believe, but it's still important to keep it in mind in case you find yourself involved in a federally f***ed-up incident. One way to protect yourself is to shave, and not just your face either. Men, some women, and bearded non-binary people will probably want to do that, but I recommend a tactic often employed by street gangs in preparation for premeditated murder. Shave your head. According to the American College of Dermatologists, it's normal to lose anywhere from 50 to 100 hairs from your head every day, and you have no control over when or where. Any one of them can land you behind bars or in a pine box. And that's just your hair. That's to say nothing of dead skin cells that are constantly falling off your body, or any blood you will definitely lose in combat from time to time. Helpful tip, carry a small spray bottle of bleach. If you spray bleach on spilled blood, that blood is contaminated and useless for the purpose of identification. And also, some basic first aid supplies like a pocket-sized tube of medical glue for cuts if you can get it, crazy glue if you can't. Another source of DNA often overlooked is bodily secretions. Don't look at me like that, I'm talking about sweat. As a street vigilante, you're definitely going to break a sweat. It's important to manage that, and neither Speed Stick nor Secret will do the whole job. I recommend a tactical suit made from breathable materials like merino wool or Gore-Tex, and then place any armor you'll be wearing over top of that. Keep your armor as light and basic as you can, though. We'll get into more reasons for that in a future episode, but for now, let's just say that stuff gets heavy, fast, exacerbating the problem of detection through bodily secretions. And obviously, never ever go to the washroom as your masked persona. That is just asking to get caught, either immediately or later. When it comes to fingerprints, you have a few options. The obvious solution is to wear gloves, but again, this is a tactical choice. If you employ the use of touch screens in the course of crime fighting, you don't want to be constantly taking your gloves off and putting them back on. There are gloves available with a kind of quote-unquote fake skin on the fingertips. If you expect to be making frequent use of your fists, protective gloves are helpful. Padding and compression, for example. I don't usually recommend the kind of tactical gloves with reinforced knuckles, as these can be fatal for your adversaries. But they are out there. In any case, try to balance your needs with the advantages and disadvantages that come with the gloves you choose. Or you can just remove your fingerprints permanently, but that will raise suspicions if attention is ever drawn to it in your civilian life. And attention will inevitably be drawn to it. Also, it's a really painful process, I've heard. So to recap, 1. A mask is a lifestyle, one that differs wildly from your ongoing civilian life. 2. Have a secure supply of consumables, either by making them yourself or through extra-legal networking. 3. A costume is a tactical choice first, an aesthetic one second. 4. Your body will betray your identity if you let it, so keep it in check. And 5. Always go to the bathroom before setting out on a mission. That's it for this week. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the little bell for notifications. If you're finding value in my knowledge and experience, you can leave either a one-time or monthly donation to the cause via Patreon, follow the link below, which would really go a long way to covering my crime-fighting expenses. They are many and varied, as you will no doubt discover for yourself. Thank you for watching, good luck out there, and stay safe.